Thank you for joining us here on the Frank Sontag podcast. We post virtually every Friday at 1 o'clock p.m. Pacific on YouTube under the Frank Sontag podcast, and we're on most of the other usual social media outlets. We've been doing this for a number of weeks, and my guest who is here in studio now is a man that I have followed for a number of years. I'll tell the story once we get into it. Some of you may recognize him, but I am just really excited about spending some time with my dear brother, Andy McPhee. Andy, welcome to the Frank Sontag podcast.
Thank you, Mr. Sontag.
Oh my gosh. Really? Is that where we're going? What part of Texas were you born in?
Couldn't ride a horse to save me life, mate.
Talk a little bit about, I would say one of the many gifts God has downloaded into you, and we will talk about your faith journey and walk, is in the area of acting. This is something that I went on IMDb last night, and I had to do a double take. Do you know how many movies you've been in?
I think last look it was about 140, I think.
I thought it was like...
Probably a bit more now.
I thought that's got to be a mistake, but I saw 100 and change. I'm like, Andy's been busy.
Yeah, I think there's a few missing.
Yeah. How did all that start? Were you raised in a home where acting was at the forefront, or did you get the bug later in life?
No, it's one of those things like, which obviously we talk about later with my coaching, but when I look back over my life, I've never been interested in acting or anything like that, so I thought. And cutting to how I got into acting, I've been moved jobs all my life. So I had a very traumatic childhood, not for me, but for everybody else. Right? For me, it was just, what? Did I? Oh, sorry. Okay. Just kept doing it, just causing issues right through. Don't know where that actually started. There was a lot of blame, to parents, but when you get older, you go, well, no, he was only actually trying to help you, and right. You just weren't listening and blaming him. So I look at all that, and then I went to look at the whole picture of failing at school, getting involved with the wrong people, and changing jobs from a locomotive engineer on the railways for 13 years from the age of 17 after being fired from my first job. My dad got me, losing my license, which my dad happened to know the police officers in the station when I went in to do it, and they went, oh, your dad's, oh, okay, well, there you go. I lost it a week later, caught by the same police officers chasing people around the suburbs to have a bit of a fight. Lost it, got it back again through Dad. So through my whole life, I was blaming other people for things, but it was me. It was me. So I look back and I think, you know what? Train driver, left that to lawn mowing, judo, black belt, went into professional wrestling. Professional wrestling led to acting because they wanted, back home in Australia, some pro wrestlers for a commercial on TV for Burger King, which was opening in Australia. So I got that. That's how the 34 years of acting started. But so many different jobs, so many. Bouncer, security, lawn mowing, car washing jobs, scrap metal yard, running nightclubs, just everything. So I look back and someone said, so did you ever want to act? I said, well, I started at 38, obviously not, but it was driven that way. So I look back and think, wait a minute, my dad used to read stories to me every night. As much as I was, that kid in the family, he said many times, we're going to put you in a boys' home because your mum can't deal with you. And even that didn't worry me, And I just keep looking back, and we went to pantomimes. He would take my mum to theatre all the time. He would take me to theatre. And I start to think, wow, he was just doing it because what he loved. And so it was installing in me. And as a young kid at the age of 11, I think, I was at my grandma's house, and I saw all this commotion out the front. There was TV cameras and police cars. I went, what's going on? I went, oh, wow, we had a big TV show back in the day called Homicide, and the other one was Division 4, and they were filming it, and I'm like, what? That's the guys off TV. So I'm watching it, and I'm going, this is so cool.
Yeah.
And then they went to pack up and leave, and I just went up. and something I learned about myself, always not afraid to ask or talk to someone. So I just went up at 11 years old. I said, where are you going? They said, oh, we're going to move now. We're going up there. I went, oh. I ran inside to my aunt, my grandma's place. I said, my auntie Jean, who sadly has passed away now, I said, can you take me? Can you follow them? We've got to follow them. So we followed them. And it was only probably a 20-minute walk from my house, but she said, all right, you'll be all right here. Back in the day, you'll be all right. Left 11-year-old kid there, right?
A little different
No
nowadays,
phones.
but yeah, for sure.
Yeah, no one's worried. Mum didn't even know where I was. All she knew I was at Grandma's. And so I'm watching this whole thing, and I'm like, oh, man, this never said I want to be an actor. I was just enthralled.
It's
but
pretty
it was
amazing.
Sitting in there.
Yeah.
So dark comes, they pack up, and I'm like, oh, I'm late. I've got to get home. So I go up to the 4 lead actors who are the detectives. I said, hey, I've been following you all day. Can you give me a ride home? They gave me a ride home. They gave me a ride home in the police car, and back in the day they wore suits and those little, the men's hats they wore back in the time.
Sure.
And so the car pulls up at the top of the street, the police car, with the lights and everything on top, not going. Our street goes downhill. So my dad's out there washing the car on a Sunday afternoon.
Comes a police car.
The police car's at the top of the hill. So I saw him happen to look up, and the police car took off, and there's me standing there, and I could just see him now going, oh, no, what now?
What did he do now?
Yeah, so that's sort of how it started. And then I just thought back, wow, it's always been there. I used to play make-believe games, way too old, till I was probably 12, 13 with my Italian neighbours across. We used to make up all these war games and things. So I look back and go, no, it was already there. And I was able to creatively get out of trouble at school by immediately telling a lie. When they go, who did that? No, what are you doing here with this? And when the teacher walked away, my friend said, how'd you do that? I go, it's better than getting into trouble. So there was little things always there.
Was there a time in your pursuit, if you will, or the way doors would open? We'll obviously get into some specifics. Did you ever study the craft? Did you go to acting school at all? Did you do any of that?
No, never. Not even at school. Not even interested. Becoming a professional wrestler, entertainment, right? So any of the wrestling fans who are around our age would remember Jimmy Superfly Snuka, Big Boss Man, Malenko. They all came to Australia. I met all of them, traveled with Jimmy Superfly Snuka. I wasn't the greatest wrestler at all, I can tell you that right now. But just meeting these people and the entertaining and being an extrovert helps.
Yeah.
So it just, for me, my first movies, if you look at my first reels, you're like, holy cow, man. How did you even get that far? But that's how it all goes for everybody. So that's why I can tell my actors, no, it's not perfect, but it will get better. I said, if you saw my first things I did, I said, truly, my ex-partner now, she's still, if I said, you remember that role I did in that film where I said this line? She goes, oh, I'll never forget that. She said, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. I was playing a period piece in Australia, like back in the days of horse and carts, and I had a small role. I was always getting roles. That was the great thing, very early on, very little extras roles, but then getting speaking roles, maybe 5 or 6 words, thank goodness. And my scene was this guy takes off, and I get up and I go, he went there, that way. And my ex goes, I'll never forget that. She said, I don't even know how they cut that. They didn't cut that out. So that's why I can tell my actors. I said, no, forget what you just did. It's the way it is. Just learn.
Andy McPhee is my guest. Very short story. In 2002, I got the bug. I was telling you I went to acting school. I went to Playhouse West. Point of the story, bringing it up, is not look at me. But the acting teacher said something very profound, and I'll never forget it. And it goes kind of in what you're saying. We had James Franco went through the school. He got famous. There were some people that came in. They had the wannabe itch, like, look at me. And so one said, how do I break into Hollywood? And the acting teacher, he's in Philadelphia now. His name's Tony Savant. Tony said, do you love acting? And he said, well, I don't know. Tony said, I'm going to tell you something. The way you break into Hollywood is you learn to act. And he goes, what does that mean? He said, you have opportunities to act every day of your life. If you want to really learn acting, go to the local old folks home and put on a show for the people that are just thriving for connection. But the point was, he said, the more you do it, the better you will get. Versus, I need to do this, or we studied Meisner at Playhouse West, which there's a lot of good stuff in that.
So it's good stuff in all of this.
Good stuff in all that.
Yeah.
So that being said, and we're going to talk about your faith journey as well, do you look back and go, wow, God was kind of in all of that? Because 34 years, acting career, you've been very, quote unquote, successful, and you're very good at what you do. But there's also sometimes other elements that are beyond your control that are just not supernatural per se, but you're like, wow,
they're supernatural.
God's hands on that stuff.
Yeah, I can tell you a story a bit later on this. But yeah, look, I do believe that we were talking about this with my friend yesterday. We were heading up to Dale and Joey Travolta's school in Bakersfield, where it's for young kids on the spectrum and Down syndrome, and I've been up there twice talking to them, and all these journeys, they all leading somewhere else. I look back and think, yeah, it's, because I've caused, a lot of trauma in my life to people, through just not taking care of things that need to be taken care of, like, whatever you dealt with as a kid, anger, or, and you couldn't listen to people, and you just keep going on that path. You just keep getting in the car and flat out and through the freeways and passing everybody until you have a bad accident one day and you go, oh my God, what have I done? So life's the same. Unless you pull off the highway and go get some help and say, look, I'm not dealing with this, I'm messing things up for other people, you're going to keep doing it. And my faith helped me see that. And probably I'm not I read the Bible, but I don't believe I read it enough. But I just trust what you said, it's the supernatural and the way things are guided and where things are leading. That's sort of how I deal with my faith,
Was there a moment in your life you look back where you made the decision, I'm choosing to be a Christian, or how did all of that come about?
Well, when I was at high school, I started going to religious instruction down the back of the class, so your friends couldn't see you at lunchtime, And even my friend now, who's same age as me, in our 70s, and he still remembers, man, that time you went to religious instruction. He goes, we thought you'd all lost your mind,
For sure.
And, I did that every Friday, and the pastor was great, and I went to the Wesleyan Methodist Church on the Sundays. Then Friday night we had youth group, and Billy Graham. I ended up being in the Billy Graham choir. Couldn't sing. I was the one mouthing going, because I didn't want anyone else to hear how bad I was. But it was just such an experience, the Melbourne Town Hall where Billy Graham was preaching. So I had some really cool experiences. But then I just, one day, it's, if I can do this, and then just started back on the path again. But I've always been there. Always been there. I just remember as a young kid, always praying for my family, for safety. And I think probably one of the biggest things that affected me was death. Like losing your parents, yes, but grandparents first. Seeing my grandfather just before he passed away, and that really affected me. Any type of that loss, and I was always praying, keep my family safe, keep this safe, because you have this fear, like there's no things happen. There's no trust. So over the years, I've just learnt to have the trust and faith that you ain't in control of anything.
That's right.
There's a wonderful book I was reading about a lady who was born and bred in Africa. She became an actress, but at the age of 5, she had a dream about she wanted to go and learn the bushcraft of herbs and medicines, right? And in this book, she, in her 40s, ended up travelling to another part of Africa, and she met this amazing bush doctor who walked, he's in his 70s, walked everywhere, gathered water. She was with him for 2 years. She said, it took me probably a year to get as fit as this guy, and I was only 40. And, one morning she woke up, probably been there about a year or so, And he could see she wasn't happy, and he said, "What's wrong?" And she goes, "Oh no, I've been here. I actually came here looking for a miracle." Because the first thing he said to her is when they met, he said, "Oh, you're finally here." And she goes, "What do you mean?" He said, "Oh, well, you've been dreaming about this since you were 5." And she's
Oh, wow.
okay, great. So he said, "What's wrong? You're unhappy?" She said, "Yeah, well, came for a miracle. It hasn't." He said, "Yes, it has." He said, "You're missing it. You woke up.
Oh.
That's your miracle." He said, "Because this is how it goes. 50% chance you'll wake up, 50 you won't." And then when I was filming with Cody in New Zealand, that story came straight back when I was talking to a friend of mine who was a beautiful Maori, working on the sets, and he drank a lot. And I said, "Why does he drink a lot?" I said, "He drinks a lot because his wife passed away. Every year he works 6 months, then 6 months they travel around New Zealand." And he told me himself, he said, "We were going for our 6 months trip the next morning, went to bed that night, woke up in the morning, give her a bit of a smack on the butt, excuse me, went to the toilet, came back, but he touched her again and she was cold, passed away. She's only 38. And I went, oh, that story, 50% you'll wake up, 50 you won't. So it's not in our hands,
Yes.
And that really stuck with me. The miracle is as soon as you open that eye and go, I don't want to get out of bed because you're lucky even waking up,
And let's see, how can I jump off that? Because absolutely, we live in such a time of excess and how do I say this? Materialism, distraction.
Happiness in buying.
Here we go. So my first spiritual teacher before I became a Christian, he used to call it fool's gold. Mm-hmm. He said, it's not real. It's not sustaining. Now, he didn't become a Christian. Tragically, he passed in a motorcycle crash. But I always kind of held on to that like it's fleeting. There's something more. When I was a New Age teacher for 21 years, I knew in some way, on some level, something's missing here. And the missing part, I've come to know as my relationship to God the Father, number one. But number two, my attitude and my perspective, like just the simple things. He gives us breath. We've got this day. The sun is out. We have so much. We kind of talk about, you want to see the rest of the world, go on a mission trip. I went to Haiti, where we stayed at the top hotel, had no AC, we couldn't take showers, and it's just like a stark wake up. Stop complaining. We've got so much, and God is so good.
Yeah, so much. I mean, when we went to Africa for a film there, the thing that stuck out in my head is the shanty towns we were filming there. Incredible until you actually go there and see these houses bought out of what we call corrugated iron, the ripple iron, right? Like just amazing. But they all dress immaculately. I'm going, they're living like this, but they're dressing like millionaires. And they still have pride. They still take, and they got zero. Well, I say zero, but they haven't. They say, no, we got it all. Like we were in little towns where the mothers were beautifully dressed in their coloured, dresses and robes, and the kids are running around bare feet playing soccer. And I said, oh, do you mind if I take a photo of the kid? Well, you would have thought I just said, here's $1 million. Mm-hmm. They just went nuts. The kids were laughing. I was just taking a video and sending it back to my friend in America, and the mothers were like, I've just said, hey, we're making a movie. You're all going to be stars and get paid $1 million each. Right. It was incredible. And they had nothing there. And I said to one of the families who came out, we were filming on their property, which was sand and nothing else around. Kids would be running around barefoot, riding a horse bareback with just a rope, right, on the horse. Dogs running everywhere. Parents would come out every morning watching us film. I just went straight up to them, like I went up to the police officers or the actors saying, can I get a ride home? I go, why are you so happy? They went, oh, thanks for asking, because we've got everything we need.
My goodness.
And I just went, oh, wow. There's nothing, there's no trees there, there was nothing, but they have everything they need. Now, again, so, people don't get the wrong idea. There's nothing wrong with having a great, beautiful car, beautiful house. Nothing wrong with that at all. if you've earned that and you buy it. But as long as your perspective around the rest of life is giving and not just taking. I've met people who are multi-billionaires and the most beautiful people and Christians, they've earned it. They were able to buy that big house, but they also give back lots. And I've met people who aren't in the faith and still give back lots.
Yes.
So it's not about you can't have it. It's you can't make that your happiness, because it'll never be your happiness. And you were a Buddhist, right, back in the time?
I was.
And again, I'll say too, I'm not against Buddhism, right? I'm not a Buddhist, but some of the things they say, you see them in the Bible as well. So I'm not degrading anything anyone wants to believe in, but the message is coming through very clear that it's never going to make you happy with all this money, right? And they've proven that over time. So I think if I suddenly won a lottery, like 30 or 40 million, we all say it, I'd give this to that person, I'd give that to... We would, but I read an article the other day, and I think it was out of one of the... it was one of the scriptures I think I read, just someone doing a devotional, and they did a survey of all these people who had won lotteries, not everyone in the world, but most of them went back to their normal life, and a lot of them struggled. And a lot of them blew the money, and a lot bought houses, but they still went back to their... And it's like when you're given everything, what else is there? What else is there? What are you going to get up in the morning for? And I don't mean I'm being rude or disrespectful, but you have to have a purpose to get up, and it can't just be the bank account or the beautiful house. That's wonderful to have that.
So you remind me of a very short story. Andy McPhee is my guest. There is a program on Netflix, and I don't remember the exact title. Do you know what a blue zone is? You heard of blue zones?
Oh, I have, but I can't.
So blue zones are areas in the world where there's centarians, where anomalies, where people are living past 100.
Oh, right, yes.
And so there's something to it. So I watched a little of this series. I think it's Living Past 100, Blue Zones or whatever. And the whole point that you just shared, the host is trying to figure out, okay, what is it? Is it the food they eat? Is it the lifestyle? And there are a lot of mitigating factors. But one that really stood out, and there's different parts of the world, it's not just one particular part, but one of the consensus areas that were aligned, and they're interviewing these people in 90s and 100s, and they're joyous and they're smiling, and they all said, I have a purpose to my life when I wake up in the morning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's what you hear all the time.
And it could be just something as mundane as I'm supposed to go till the soil for growing the carrots.
95, I'm going for my 7-mile run this morning, like,
right.
No, it is having a purpose, and look, I met people during COVID. I did a bit of Uber driving and that, and I've met the most wonderful people in there. And I met this lady, picked her up at 3:45 a.m. She's heading off to work, and we're just talking. It was sort of in the middle of COVID. We were allowed to work, I think we'd stopped wearing masks at the time. And she started talking. I said, so you've been okay through COVID? She said, oh, well, no, my mum lives next door. We worked at the same place, went to work the same time with her every morning. She retired, and then she'd look after my children, then COVID took her life. And she said, now I'm still going to work by myself. I have an older daughter who's, going through that troubled teen years. And she said, having someone to look after my kids. And I said, but you're still going? I said, God bless you. And she got out of the car, and I told her that. I said, you are a massive inspiration to keep going. And she started crying, because she has to cry, because she is. Like, she's just lost her mum, who was her partner going to work. And she still sits in that car now by herself and goes to work for her family, not for her, for her family. And I went, wow, you are amazing. And she said, oh, my God, thank you. And that wasn't me just trying to be Mr. Nice. It was just telling her exactly who she is.
Yeah, amen, amen. And it's a bit of, we live in these times. I'm not anti-technology. I'm not a Luddite, but we're so dependent. And, I have a 16-year-old at home on social media, and it's you know the story. Like younger folks, they don't even like talk to each other anymore. It's a text or it's through social media. We don't even have face-to-face. You go out to a restaurant and you'll see a family sitting there all with their heads buried in the phones. It's like, I don't want to overstate this, but this is dangerous.
I think they've already understood now that a lot of psychologists, psychiatrists saying that, the kids are smart nowadays, there's no doubt. They're very smart, but they are distracted by this social media. We all are, because we're on Zoom now, and thank God we can do this. Yep. There's negative and positive to it. And I think the danger of it is I've watched, a kid sitting there like this hunched all day while he's not at school on the computer. The body's not moving. He's just in this curve. Our organs aren't moving there. And that's got to affect you somewhere. Like somewhere in your life, if you're not, they don't even, not saying everybody, but not enough exercise, not enough getting out. And just said to this person when I said, you got to get out of that chair. I said, you have to get out of that chair, man. Your heart's doing this, boom, boom. And the minute it might have to run from something or you get excited, you could have a heart attack. I said, you can't just sit there. You can be on your computer, but you've got to get out and get into some sunshine. And I think you're right. It's, I hear young couples talking, or they're on their phone and go, oh, look, I've got so many likes. That you don't, I'm not an expert, so I'm telling you, I'm not an expert. I'm just saying that they're BS. It's BS, because just because someone likes it doesn't mean, I'll tell you right, there was a beautiful thing I saw on Instagram the other day. So I do like social media, right? But I also train. At 72, I train every day. Hurts, but I train. It takes me an hour to warm up before I even start training.
For sure.
So you saw me get out the car, right?
I did. Although it's a small car,
yeah,
so.
But that's how my grandfather used to. I went, oh, God, I'd hate to be like that. And now I am. So I saw this thing on Instagram, and it was a brilliant story. This guy goes, my son asked me to organise inviting all his friends to the wedding because he's really busy organising something else. So he gave me a list and said, please, Dad, call all those people. There's 45 people on there, 50 people. So the day of the wedding comes, they're all there, and the church is half empty. And the son goes up to Dad, goes, Dad, what? There's only 5 people here. He goes, what did you tell them? He said, I just sent a message saying, your best friend Jason needs your help. Could you please show up at this address on this day? He said, there, your 5 friends. The rest, forget them. They weren't coming because you needed help. And I went, yeah, that's probably about it.
Wow.
It's a great analogy. It's
a
cool story.
It is, for sure.
Because there is, people say, oh, you've only got this many. You really have. The people that will really stand by you, the people that will be there for you are very, very few. So all those likes, if you suddenly went downhill and needed help, I guarantee you that 150,000 people that love you, you'd be lucky to have one that'll step and go, hey, what do you need?
Yeah, that's
you might
true.
get 2.
It's true.
Maybe. Just saying.
Andy McPhee is my guest. In your time of, well, let me ask, do you have a preference to what kind of acting? Do you like live theater? Do you like movies? Do you like, you've done a lot of different things.
Theater, I would love to finish off my career with theater because I think it's great for the mind.
Yes.
It's also extremely scary.
Oh, you
and I've done theatre, but I prefer, and I'm only saying this, movies and actors are not lazy, but to me it's a lazy way of, because you've got a safety, it's not lazy, it's a safety barrier. If something messes up, cut. I think theatre, oh my gosh, how do these Shakespearean actors hours on stage with this dialogue you don't even understand?
That's right.
And I go, I want to do that. I really would love to be able to do that. I admire them so much, and I respect all actors, of course, but it is a little easier, even though you've got to delve into those characters, and there's brilliant performances, brilliant, but there's still a safety zone, And I love movies, I love short films, indie films. I'm lucky I can do anything. I can do a little short film for a student. They might say, Andy, we really love you in this. There's no pay. Okay, I'll do it for you. No worries, because it helps them. And those contacts, maybe later in life, maybe they'll be able to help me or get on. And it has happened. They've got on films and said, hey, remember that you did? I want you on my film. It all goes around, just give and take. So I love all areas of feature film, TV, short films, independent films. A lot of independent films you do no one will ever see.
Was talking to a friend who's in the industry. I didn't bother to cross-check it. I may be wrong, but a movie that really impacted me early on was Gallipoli.
Oh, yeah, right. Mm.
Were you in Gallipoli?
Yeah. Oh, no, not the movie. We're in the TV series. Cody was the lead in the Gallipoli TV series in Australia, which had about 6 or 7 episodes. And it's funny you bring that up, because yesterday at Inclusion Film, or Tuesday at Inclusion Films, I think there's probably 60 young kids in the class, all different areas of spectrum, Down syndrome, etc. One kid got up and he goes, "Oh, Gallipoli." Now, that's Australian. It never went anywhere else. It was just on Australian TV. He knew all about it. All about it. And, and I'll say this because it's there. He's in the class. He's alive. He's real. If you talk to him, you'll hear this. He speaks like a girl. Like I heard him speak, and I'm looking for the female. And I went, that's a young girl speaking. And next thing and then his voice comes back like this. And I went, wow, that kid would not make it at high school. He would get so bullied.
Yeah.
Not by everyone. I've got to keep making sure I'm not saying everyone, but there would be people there. And that's why this school that they've got is just the most brilliant thing for these kids. Dale, who runs the school as well, he used to be an escape artist in the days with Evel Knievel, right? He's amazing, this guy's journey. And he met Joe, they're lifelong friends, and that's how they stopped their careers to start this school. And Dale said one day this girl came in, I think she was dealing with something, he didn't actually say what, and she came in and she'd been bullied at school, terrible, terrible, terrible stuff. And she said the first day there he went up to her and said, "Oh, I found my home." He just went, just cried. And you see it. You see these kids, they're just beautiful. And he spoke to me 4 or 5 times, this young kid, and every time he spoke, I went, yeah, okay, his voice is going to go high now. And then he'll swallow, and then his voice, and no one even batted an eyelid, because everyone accepts everyone there. You can learn a lot from going to these places and watching these kids. It humbles you. Oh.
One of the items I did look into, when I did radio and I have high-profile guests on, I'm not the guy that, okay, I write 15 questions and I've got my notes and we've got to cross all the T's and dot the I's. I just think there's something more, at least the way I'm wired, spontaneity, not knowing. The guest shares something and you're like, for the first time, wow, your response is genuine versus, oh yeah, I read that. Mm-hmm. So all that to say this, I've been in radio 30-some years. I'm auditory. There's something about the voice, tonal qualities of the voice that I've always been drawn to. You do a bit of voices and voice coaching as well. Mm-hmm. Anything that comes up, the power of the voice. One of my mentors told me when I got on the radio, it's not how you sound, it's what you have to say. Mm-hmm. And many years later, when I studied acting, I thought, it's not how you look, it's how you perform the craft, if you will. Mm. There's so much to it. And you're a coach. You're an acting coach. You give back. Do you understand? Do you recognize just I'm sure you do, I'm being rhetorical, but 30-some years of doing this, we could do 3 hours of a podcast on all the things God has shown you. Mm. About Andy McPhee and how much he loves you and the stories of this movie or this TV show. Mm.
Yeah, especially when you have to own that you were a mess and you caused a mess and you left people with trauma. And that may not go away for people. They may not talk to you again, and they may never understand that you're not that person anymore. I mean, that person's there, it doesn't go away. That person can be the guy who will get flipped in a car, and next thing you're chasing that guy and you get out of the car and you want to put him to sleep for a while, bang, bang,
sure.
Which, not proudly, that's had a lot of fights back. And I'm not a fighter. I was just reactively volcanic. Someone, that would be me. And that was nothing to do with that person. It was nothing to do with anyone. It's because I made them I made them think they did something wrong to me. They actually didn't. Even if they cut me off, okay, they cut me off, just let it go. You know, you haven't caused an accident, just keep going. Or someone says something and you don't listen. And what you just said about speaking is listening is so important. And I never listened to what my parents were saying. I thought they were making me wrong. So I stuck with that story, and that just got bigger all the time. Grew for everything through your life. You just think, you what? No, I didn't. You know, like you just hear the wrong thing because it's already wired into you. You think you're being made wrong, and you keep doing that, it's going to be a very lonely person.
For sure,
you know?
For sure.
And so I think the voice is your own. If someone says something to you, and you can give your opinion, of course, you know, but if you're giving your opinion to make whatever they said wrong, or you're saying, no, that's not true, then you might as well shut your mouth. They could say something to you and you don't agree with it, and I personally just think the first thing that come out your mouth, it'd be like, oh, wow, okay, yeah, I got that. And respectfully, my friend, I don't quite agree with it, but can you explain a bit more to me, because I don't understand that part that you talked about, rather than go, that's BS. No, that's ridiculous. You know, and then suddenly it all gets heated. You might never agree with them even when they explain it, but if you go, okay, I accept that, that's cool, I don't agree, but I get sort of where you're coming from, but it's not where I believe. That's okay. And if you've got a friend that thinks the same, you're never going to lose that friend or that person you're talking to or the business associate or family or whatever, you know.
As you're sharing that, what goes through my mind is, biblically, part of that can be called the fruits of the Spirit. Humility, compassion. Our faith has probably changed us in many ways. I don't know if you know my story. I don't really know your story. I'd like to hear a little bit of it, but I want to kind of go back to a moment in your life, wherever you were. Was there a time where you kind of looked around, you're on a set, whatever, and you're like, wow, this is crazy. I'm sustaining here. There's something to this, versus I've known a few people, they've done little bit parts here, and then their careers don't sustain. But 30 some odd years, and I told you the first time I saw you, Christians, I watched Sons of Anarchy. Oh my gosh. When I figured out who Andy was, maybe we can talk a little bit about that. But you've done very well. And I'm sure part of it is your abilities, and part of it is God having his hand on your life. Like, to be able to do this is a blessing.
Yeah. Yeah, I think what's happening now is, like, as you get older, like, I mean, obviously I'm very blessed. I just had a role in Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes and got to play an ape. And the thing that you've got to be very careful of is when you go to schools with kids like with Down syndrome or autism, and they love this, and you teach them how to be an ape, forget the rest of the day's done. You've got a room full of apes. Like, they're just running around the room having the best time of their life. And like they were videoing on Tuesday. Dale was singing, the class was singing, they're watching a video of them dancing. And next thing, this kid in the corner gets up and he's walking across the room doing this. And the whole class just laughed. Like, the freedom and humility of being able to share and teaching what you do, to see those people just let go and have a ball. That is the biggest, you just go, this is so cool.
Yeah.
So cool. And I think my journey through the people I've met is leading to a lot of teaching. You know, like this call tomorrow on Zoom could have me, because I've had it in my mind for ever and a day that I believe God wants me to go to Africa, right? And I've been there working with Cody on his film and coaching and mentoring, had a little bit part there, but it wasn't that. It was like, it's just been this. It's like that lady in the book at 5. This happened to me later, and now another friend I've just met, she was on a short film with me, and we went to a friend's birthday party, and I just said to her, oh, you know what, I've been doing a bit of Uber, because it's a fact, everyone. Most actors have got a second job. Like, people will jump in the car when I'm driving Uber and they go, oh, what do you do this? Oh, that's cool. They never go, why are you doing this? They don't put you in a, oh, I thought you, no, they go, I get it. I get it. It's only a small percentage of actors that work, and God bless them. It's great. But most of us are pouring beers in a bar or driving Uber or delivering food or whatever you do. It's fine. We're not special. We just happen to be actors, right? And if you work all the time, that's even great. So I was at this party and I said, oh, my back's starting to hurt a bit. I'm not exercising as much as I should. And I was talking to my friend Joby, African-American woman, and I said, I think I've got to start exercising more. Pump, straight away out of 60 people, this woman comes up and goes, hi. I went, how you doing? I'm Andy, that's Joby. Oh, what's your name? Karen? What do you do? Karen, I write books. What's your book? Oh, it's on how to heal, pain in your body. I went, oh, that's interesting. I was just talking about that, right? So she sent me this book about how she, learned to deal with pain. And I said to Joby, isn't that funny? I was thinking about that all week. And the two things that have been on my mind is getting back into the exercise, and I need to get to Africa because I have a group there in Ghana and Kenya who I've met, want me to come and teach. And I said to them 2 weeks ago, I said, look, they can't raise the money because it's too hard for them, right? I said, I'm just going there. I told them, I'm coming over, I'll pay my own way, and I'll spend a week there, just give me a place to sleep and feed me, and I'll work with you guys. And Joby went, oh, I forgot to tell you my new job, didn't I? I went, what's that? She says, I work for this company that actually works with embassies around the world, and especially Africa, which is the Zoom call I'm having tomorrow, to send people over to mentor and teach. And I went, oh, thanks. It's like it's meant to be because it's been on my mind so much to want to go there, So tomorrow we'll see, without expectation. Just hopefully go there. I get truly more excited about going to Africa to teach than getting my next role. I want a next role, I do, but this is way more exciting to do this.
I want to be careful here, but the fleshly side of me, I'm just stuck on this question. How does Andy McPhee get cast in the Planet of the Apes as an ape? I mean, okay, we're going to have our audition here. Andy, show us how you move around. I mean,
pretty much that. Like I auditioned here in LA. The whole Apes was filmed in Sydney, out in the country areas. And the audition was that simple. They just said, look, the agent sent the description. They said, we want you to portray this ape who does his own sign language, and we don't want you to try and be an ape. Just give us an essence of ape. We don't want you climbing trees and eating bananas. We're going to train you. And it was in red block writing. We are going to train you. Please don't overdo this. We want to see the inner side, the spirit of the ape as the human parts in them. So when you think about that, it's going to be CGI. So you're going to have all the CGI over. So this is going to be them making that move, but the real part of you is here. So wow. I just concentrated on making sure that the eyes were listening to this as the person's reading. It was meant to be one of the other apes. As they're reading is just really watching and listening through the eyes of what they're saying and imagining all these apes there, because my role was the honoured elder ape. And that was it. And then just listened and then did it. They said, make up your own sign language. So I just made up my own. And that was it. It worked.
What a great experience.
Oh, it was huge. It was amazing. Just to be on set and watch all these lead actors playing the bad apes and the good apes. It was just amazing.
There is such a power in movie making and acting, and I don't want to digress too much here, but a moment just kicked in my mind when I saw it in the big screen. There's Charlton Heston on the beach, first Planet of the Apes, where he realized that, America, if you will, is no longer, and just the anger and the way in which he handled that scene, or when they arrested him and he said, "Get your hands off me, you dirty ape," or whatever. Moments in movies that stick with us forever.
I think the thing that's going to stick with people in this, maybe I'm wrong, but I did it in class. I did it at the Inclusion Films the other day. The Big Bad Ape, and he was an Australian actor again. Amazing job he did. He comes out and everybody's there. They've captured us. They've captured everybody. And he comes out and he goes, what's he say? What a beautiful day! And he just says that. Sorry about that if that blew your eardrums out. And he just says that over and over. And I did it in class and they all went, yeah! So I think that little saying is going to come out, what a beautiful day.
Wow.
Yeah, it was amazing. Like, just watch this big ape with the teeth and he's just screaming, what a beautiful day. It was like Shakespeare, what he was doing up on this platform, you know.
And that guy did pretty good. That Shakespeare guy did pretty good.
Yes, he did. He did. He's very, very, very intelligent man.
I actually, many years ago, I don't know how I ended up there, probably was interested in a girl and she wanted to go, but talk about live theater, I went to see Macbeth. Didn't understand any of it. But, I mean, it was just like, it was breathtaking.
It is.
To watch somebody up there doing that and become that character, and how do you memorize that dialogue?
For so long.
Yes.
I just, if you want to be humbled as an actor, do that. Just go watch. I tell my actors I coach, I say, you just go watch Shakespeare and realize what you don't know. And I say that respectfully. It's not saying you don't know, but realize how far, if you really want to stretch to be this incredible creative, whether you write, direct, do whatever you do, go watch someone on stage that's there for an hour and a half, 2 hours. You think, I go, could I do that? And I go, I simply couldn't. I would have to train for an extreme amount of time. We could get there. Would we be as good as that? No one knows. But to get up and experience that on stage, I think is just, it humbles you to go, well, okay, I've got a 2-page audition or 10-page. What am I stressed over? Like, just don't stress over it. It's just blank page. Someone's put their thoughts and energy into it. Just learn it. Do the best you can. You're not up there. You're doing it for 3 minutes? These guys are up there for hours. To me, it gives me perspective. Go, stop making yourself so precious and important. Just understand this is fun. You know, do your job properly, but it's fun. Those guys, a huge amount of respect for people who do that.
Yeah.
You know.
Andy McPhee is my guest. Has your faith helped you to become a better actor at all? I know that's kind of a out of the blue question, but
I think it's helped me be a better human being.
Tell me more.
Just the fact that, like, and maybe, look, people have a perspective sometimes, you know, years ago, close friends might think you're sort of all about you, but that's the danger of social media sometimes. Like, I don't post a lot about acting. I do little bits and pieces, but, you know, sometimes people tend to think, oh, it's always about you. And it's like, well, you're not living with me 24 hours a day. It's not about me. It's about trying to be the better person I can from what I used to be like. And that is a continual move and growth, you know. And it's not always perfect, you know. There'd be days that you just go, that did not go out how I wanted it to, you know. And one of my friends, he comes to KMG, Brian Menace Matthews from Bikers for Christ.
Oh,
right?
Sure.
He sends me devotionals every day. And one they sent the other day, the first words that came out, it might not go how you expected today. Don't let it get you down. And these quotes are great, you know, from devotionals. So you're not in control of anything. We think we are. Yes, I am. I'm going to get up and go to work. Well, you're not. Your body's allowing you to do that. If you suddenly become ill or have a heart attack, you ain't going anywhere. So you're not actually, and I know this could be, please don't write in and go that. I'm just saying you're not actually really in control of anything. We think we are, but we're really not. Life can be like that.
For sure.
Gone without warning, you know. Some earthquake could happen, you know, like tsunamis, like just life is not in our control, you know. We just have to be the best we can for other people. And I've let go of LA thinking, oh my God, this place is so... And then it took me a long time to go, Andy, there is 29 million people here. What do you think the freeways are going to be like? Are you kidding me? How stupid would you have sounded going, oh man, the traffic here? And people go, yeah, but you know how many people live here? I mean, that sounds lame, but the amount, I don't know if many people know this, the population of Australia is the population of LA. So our capital cities The biggest ones, Sydney and Melbourne, have around, don't quote me again, but it's around 6 million each. Melbourne's a little bigger than Sydney now. The rest are 2 million, 3 million, 1 million, 1.5. People say, what's it like in LA? I used to try and explain it. Now I just go, okay, you live in Melbourne, there's nearly 6 million people there, approximately. Then all of a sudden, every other state in Australia goes, hey, we're all moving to Melbourne. That's LA. And they're going, what? I went, yeah, that's LA. So you just got to deal with it.
Yeah.
When you walk out the door, there's going to be crime, there's going to be traffic, there's going to be just whatever LA throws at you. But the minute you leave LA and you go somewhere else, you suddenly realise, to me, it's just, LA is its own little special beast. Because you go somewhere else and go, oh, that actually is normal here in other parts of America. Because you live here that long, you think this is what it's all like.
Yeah.
And I love LA. I think it's a terrific place. But you just got to have the correct perspective of what to expect here.
Have you been here a good chunk of your life because of your
17
acting career?
years.
Okay, not that long,
No,
really.
17. I go back to Australia a lot, though.
You do?
Yeah, I go back a lot. We're catching up there with crime. People have a funny perspective of younger people nowadays. They have a lot more knowledge of the world and Australia and other places because they travel more. A lot of people who don't know about Australia, I've had people literally argue with me saying it's a little island. I go, it's not an island. I said it actually fits in the same. As America, you put Australia on the map. I said we're very similar size. Someone said, well, I've got to go, there's no crime. I went, okay. I said, let's have a little chat. I said, we have crime based on our population. I said, I was there last year. I got carjacked nearly in my car, sleeping in a safe car park at a gymnasium leisure centre where I was going to go and train. 7:30 in the morning, I wake up to a guy with a balaclava parked next to my car. This is the area I've lived in for over 30 years in this suburb. Never had that. And the windows were getting cracked, guy with a balaclava. There's another car waiting down there to come. This is 7:30 in the morning. Then a month later, there was a shooting in the shopping centre car park just across the road. One guy killed, the other wounded seriously. 3 p.m, full of shoppers. I'm not putting it down on Australia, but I'm just saying crime is coming up now. Maybe because a lot of juvenile crime, lots of juvenile crime. A lot of people would have heard about the stabbing in Sydney shopping centre a month ago.
Yeah.
6 people. I mean, mental health, and then there is a talkback show on Triple M in Sydney, Australia, which goes worldwide. It's a midnight talkback show, and this guy talks about everything, and everything that comes up recently is the juvenile crime and having police officers come on board, correctional officers, people who are leaving those services because they go, nothing's happening. Like, these young kids are coming in committing vicious, serious crimes, and it's a woman from Uganda worked in correctional service. She said, I left. I couldn't deal with the stress. They come in one door and go out the other.
Yeah.
It's because whether the systems are full or who knows, but it's just we're dealing with what you're dealing with, and it's just a beautiful place to go, the same as America is, but crime and things in the world are changing. They're just becoming, I think, a little more,
And the world is changing.
Yeah, totally.
Dramatically. Andy McPhee is my guest. A brief self-indulgent side note, you mentioned Triple M. In the 80s, when I first started at KLOS, rock station in town, our morning news guy was the American correspondent to Australia. And they independently contracted him to do American news to a number of Australian radio stations. Triple M was one. And one day he tells me, he goes, hey, can you fill in for me? And I'm like, what do I have to do? And back then, as a non-believer in radio, I think I've said it on my podcast, hey, have you DJ'd? Oh, yeah, I did in college. A complete lie. But you'll learn as you go.
Can you ride a horse? Yep.
Yeah, right. Good luck. That's kind of hard to fake when you get on a horse. So I did Australian news for about 3 years.
Oh, wow, that's
when
great.
You said Triple M is still there, so that's
it is. Yeah,
that's pretty amazing. But I had never gone to Australia, and they wanted me to go and whatever. But
yeah, it's called the Night Shift on Triple M. But like I said, it's just a good program because he's one of those guys who he brings up all the issues. He has he himself, I don't believe he's a man of faith, but he has Sydney pastor on all the time talking about the issues of youth and correctional services. And this pastor, this was really interesting, right? A terrific guy who's been working on the streets in Sydney for a long time. And he said, I'm bringing him on tonight, he said, because of my faith, whatever that person's done, I'm willing to forgive and help. And he said, he just made a big statement. He said, I'm changing that. He goes, I'm not going to do that again when my life's in danger.
Wow.
And I went, wow, this is going to be cool to listen to.
Sure.
So he went to court with this 17-year-old who'd been on bail so many times, and he spoke up for him to the judge and said, no, I've got him, I trust him, he'll be fine. So he didn't go to jail. So they're having a coffee, and he said, we're having a coffee talk. He said, I went to the restroom, I came back, finished my coffee. Next thing, I wake up in hospital. So I don't even know what happened. He laced his drink with ice and some other drug, and the people in the hospital knew him and knew that he'd been, something happened with this drug. They said, we knew you didn't take it because you're a pastor and we know you. Right. So when he finally came to, he worked out, he laced his drink, and he found him a bit later, and he said to him, we need to talk. He goes, what'd you do that for? He said, I thought it'd just be funny. He said, I will never help you again. He said, I'll pray for you, but I'll never go to court for you again. And people go, but hang on, you're a Christian. I just thought, no, this guy's serious. He could have killed him, And he just said, as a pastor, I will not do that again. If they need to be incarcerated, I will talk to them inside and hopefully counsel. He said, I can't risk that again, Controversial statement. But
yeah, but we could maybe do another podcast about faith and all of the what I believe are misnomers, misunderstandings. You shared that story, and we don't need to go down this road. I have a couple more questions before we wrap up. I know you've got things to do, but I oftentimes, when I did my program afternoons, when we would talk about, as Christians, we're supposed to love, what does that mean? And I would use the old analogy, so you come home and there's somebody in the front room, has your family, threatening them, what are you going to do? And I was amazed, not that many said it, but more than I would have even believed. Many would say, men, I have a men's ministry, they're like, well, I would just love the guy. And I'm like, you wouldn't do what you could to disperse the situation, even if you have to hurt the guy? And they're like, well, no, I'm a Christian. I'm supposed to love people. And I'm thinking, when you said about the pastor, I'm never going to help you again. There are certain ways in which I think the whole genre of Christianity, we teach the warrior Christ in KMG. I sometimes wonder, and I'm not going to get myself in trouble, it's my podcast, but in some areas of Christianity, what Jesus are they teaching? Like, Jesus flipped the money changers. He formed a whip and drove everybody out in the animals. He challenged the religious elite. So, all that to say this. I'll ask stereotypical question 101. Are you vocal about your faith?
Yeah, most people know I am. Like, a mail ride with Bikers for Christ. The only reason that is because I love motorbikes. And it's like I found my little group. And it was through meeting Fred Zachary, who's the guy who started Bikers for Christ 40 years ago. And I went to an event with the Hells Angels because I know one of the guys there. Pastor Fred was there, and we started talking. And it was like, again, it was meant to be. That's why I was driven there, to meet Fred. And then he was the one I called in Melbourne, which I didn't answer your question before. Many, many years ago, I was sitting at home by myself. I travelled back, and I just broke down and started crying. Thought, I need to get God back in my life. He's never gone, but I need to revisit my days of when I was a teenager, and I just know that's missing. So I called him from Australia and said, you got anyone here I can talk to, And he said yes, and put me on to Steve Mann, who's a pastor in Melbourne, who's also a Bikers for Christ member. It's only 6 in Melbourne, where they have thousands here, but that's Australia. But yeah, that's how it all started. So yeah, I'm very proud to be with them because they're very, again, it's like you said, they're not, I don't know how you describe any Christians, I won't go there, but I love this group because they're out and about doing things for people. They 100% are helping people struggling, the homeless. They take toys around there. They don't make a big deal about it. They're also there for the outlaw motorcycle world. They go to a lot of events. They don't go and preach. They know the rules there. These people say, you can come, but don't start trying to. So they go there, and they've had a lot of members over the years who come and said, hey, I really need to talk to you. That's all they're there for. And they respect them for that if someone wants to come and talk, that's fine, you know. And my friend who does a devotional podcast in Australia, a devotional with a private group, he was a member of the Hells Angels for 15 years as a sergeant of arms. I used to be scared of him when I used to go. I'd see him coming, oh, this guy really scares me. And now we have the best time because that was him. Then I met him in Melbourne with another friend of mine who was back in the day, one of the lads in his suburb, but a Christian, very, very powerful man of his faith, right? And we all took a photo together, and my mate, when we looked back at the photo, he did the... And I went, you just put on your tough face. And he went, oh, did I? He goes, my missus tells me I do that all the time. So he said, I just put on that tough face. But yeah, I've met some really wonderful people from all different outlaw motorcycle clubs who've changed their life and gone into their faith, and they get on and they share with other people, and they're not trying to make people do anything. They're just sharing their journey, because sharing is caring, and it helps other people go, well, you know what, man, I think I've had enough of this. I mean, how many people do you hear in gangs, street gangs here in America, older guys who come out and they just go, man, I've got a kid now. Yeah, but you were out killing other people who were someone's children.
Yep.
You know, and now you're here. And I went, that's great. You know, I said that you've suddenly got out of that world, but they're risking their own lives getting out. So it's traumatic to stand up and say, hey, this is who I am now. You know?
I'll share a short story. Andy McPhee is my guest. And then again, I want to be sensitive to your time. We've got a few more moments. A number of years ago, when we were doing a lot of public KMG events, even before all the lockdowns, someone said, hey, you need to get this guy. His name is Kilroy Roybal. You need to get him. I get a lot of that. Okay, well, who is Kilroy Roybal? He's one of the founding members of the Mexican Mafia. And I'm thinking, okay, can you give me a contact? So long story short, I get in touch with him. I look online. There's some stuff on social media, and even his photos scared me. I'm like, I'm Italian, my ancestry, Mafia. I'm like, Anyway, we got him to come to an event, and who he drew, I mean, there were some bad dudes in the crowd, and I'm like, wow. But here's the point of the story. Because I didn't know Kilroy that well, we decide sometimes public speaking, KMG events, we'll do an interview. So I asked him, can I interview you about your history, the Mafia, if you will, and your faith? Absolutely. And I'm going to keep it together because he's no longer with us. He passed about a year or two ago. Andy, I asked him about his faith, and he started weeping. Uncontrollably weeping. And it was a little uncomfortable, but I just kind of took pause. And every time he tried to gather and speak, he would say, not apologize, he would say, he is so good. He has changed me forever. I love him. This gentleness just poured out of him. And when he finally gathered himself, I'm a little bit of a ham. I seized the opportunity. I go, so I take it when you started the Mexican Mafia, you weren't like this.
He laughed.
Laughing.
He laughed.
And it was great. It broke it up. But, yeah, we follow a God of transformation. So,
and his tears would have been the heavy burden of what he caused.
That's right.
Oh, it would have been visions of people he'd done things to or been involved in, like, because you'll never shift that from your vision.
That's right.
You know, like, just to dive in there,
please.
When Cody did his first movie here, The Road, with Viggo Mortensen, Robert Duvall, Guy Pearce. Cody was his first major film. He played the lead alongside Vigo. And there was one little part of the film when they're walking through the tunnel and there's all these dead bodies there. And his dad, Vigo, put his hands over Cody's eyes and said, I don't want you to look at this, because when you look at something, it'll stay in your brain forever. And it's such a powerful thing, because when you do see something, it will be there forever. And I can imagine the heaviness of what he went through, that guy.
For some that know you and have followed you, they know who Cody is. Some may not know about your son, and yet he's done some acting himself.
A bit.
Was that something you always knew?
His sister was acting from the age of 3. Like, just she's, you know how parents go, oh yeah, they're a natural, and you hear people say that all the time, then a lot of time they ain't.
That's right.
But
no, not at all.
Yeah, our daughter was that. Like, we sent her to jazz ballet classes at 3, and we're like, God, this kid, like, she's just so out there. And so then I introduced her to a casting agency in Australia. And they went, oh, well, she's, 3.5? No. She said she's way too young. I think she was nearly 4. Sorry, told a bit of a fib. Trying to make it sound better. She was 1. No. They said, no, she's too young. I went, no, she's not. I said, can you do me a favour, just take her for a day? Because all these kids were teenagers, 9, 10, 12, 13. They took her for a day, went back to pick her up. They went, when would you like to sign her up? I said, yeah, we will. They went on her first week. They went on a camp. You're not coming, Mum and Dad. You just dropped me off. I'm going with them.
Wow.
So she went and hung out with all these 13 and 14-year-old, came back. The teachers go, who is that? She's amazing. And then they do these end-of-year catwalk things, like they do their little modelling thing and they're acting, and she comes walking down, does a little turn, and she's only like 4 and a bit. And they said, what do you want to be when you grow up? And she meant a fireman, but she said, I want to be a fire engine. Right? And then she said, I want to be a princess and comfortable.
Wow.
And I went, oh, wow. And then, and she lives here in LA now, right? She's stopped acting for a few years and took another path with her husband. But that particular moment, they said, okay, you go backstage now. She went, no, I'm going over there. My dad's there. And they said, no, you go. She goes, I'm going to my dad. And she just got off the stage and walked down and come up and cuddled me. We're very close, very close.
Wow.
And so she'd been doing this for a long time, and Cody was 8, and I said, do you want to have a go? And he went, yeah, okay. So long story short, he did a couple little short films, and Shanoa started doing some short films, and then my agent accepted them. And then at 11 years old, I can actually send you the YouTube video that a friend sent me from Australia when Cody did this film when he was 10 with Eric Bana in Australia, and he won an award at 10 years old, AFI, which is equivalent to your Oscars here.
Sure.
And Eric got AFI for Best Male Actor, Cody got Best Child Actor.
Same AFI, American Film Institute, is here?
No. This is the Australian Film Industry Awards. So that led us to America. Eric Bana, who a lot of people will know, rang his agent and said, I've just worked with this kid. You just got to bring him over here. And that's how we got here. And Cody's film is called Romulus, My Father. It's not streamed in America, but you will find the streaming platform. It is such a beautiful film. It's a true story of an immigrant family that came to Australia. Eric played the dad, Romulus. Cody played Raymond Gator, who's a philosopher. And Raymond talks on this video, and he goes, that kid is a genius. He said, now you got me. He said, I watched him and I'm watching me. He said, how he did it, I will never know. And his kids, I think, 3 of them, saw them and they cried. They're going, Dad, we just saw you on screen as an 8-year-old boy, a 10-year-old boy. And so it was just, Cody was just, I coached him, yes, but he had something in him that, you know, and when you said, do I ever see it, I saw it probably 3 years before. He was doing what kids do. He had a little pencil and he had a little cutout figure and he's behind the couch and we were watching him and he's doing this little thing. And I said, I said, can you see what I can see? She goes, what? I said, he can see what we can see. Yeah. He's not doing it just that he can actually see beyond where he is, what we're watching. I said, he'll be a director one day. And pretty much most directors that worked with Cody, they would tell me, because I was on set every time, they allowed me to be there and coach and mentor. And they said, this kid, he is so far beyond where I'm at. And I'm talking about one of the directors who just did Batman, right? And Cody was on a film with him. He said, this kid's so far ahead of me. He's ahead of me every day. And I'll say this, and Vigo would not mind me sharing it. Vigo wrote a letter to us for 2 weeks on set to Cody and just said, I've been in this business a very, very long time. A very long time. I've worked with the best. He said, every day I go to set, I'm running behind you trying to catch up with your performance. And I thought, wow, that's just amazing. But he didn't try, Cody. I'm not saying he didn't want anything. He just embraced the character. And I think you're just lucky as a human being to have that, you know.
He did get immense notoriety for a movie not too long ago, too.
Yeah, Power of the Dog got nominated for an Oscar, and he got a Golden Globe for that. But here's the funny story. Because as he got older, obviously I don't coach him a lot now, right? We'll talk, we'll go over scripts, but he's got his own thing, which is cool. So he rang me quite a few years ago before he started filming Power of the Dog. He said, Dad, I've got this audition. He said, have a talk about it. And we didn't. And he said, I've already booked the job. I went, oh, great. And he said, yeah, Power of the Dog. I said, so what's it about, a dog? He goes, it's not about a dog, Dad. He said, it's just the name of it. So they went to New Zealand. They filmed it. It was during COVID. They had to stop, go back. But anyway, he called me and said, Jane Campion wants us to do animal techniques. I said, do it. I said, do it, mate. Do everything. Learn. I said, I've used them. They're great. And he said, I've never done this. I said, no, just let go of that. Just do whatever she wants you to do, you know. And anyway, then he calls me. He said, I think I'm getting nominated for an Oscar. I said, what for? He goes, Power of the Dog. I said, the dog thing? I said, well, what the heck's this movie about, mate? Like, I'm being a real dad, like, seriously. And then, anyway, it all happens, and we come to LA, or they come to LA, and we go to watch the premiere. And I'm going, this be interesting. And he's sitting next to me. And
I got chills right now.
Oh, yeah, I'm watching it, and I'm like... And I've sat there when he got that award in Australia, and I watch, even to this day, I watch Romulus, I can't help crying. Such a beautiful movie. And I'm sitting there watching this, and I went, I hope you win. I said, that's amazing, man. I was blown away. I just went, dude, that is just, that whole cast, the whole cast, incredible. Him and Benedict, and may I say, Benedict Cumberbatch is as Viggo Mortensen is a true gentleman. Robert Duvall, I had wonderful conversations with him. When you meet people off camera,
yes,
Robert Duvall embarrassed the heck out of me. Because we're in the makeup room. I said, hi, Mr. Duvall. He goes, Robert. I went, oh, thank you. Andy McPhee, Cody's dad, goes, you're an Aussie. So he threw all these questions at me that I should have been able to go, yep, know who you're talking about. Tennis players. He goes, so I play a lot of tennis, do you know? And I went, yes, Rod Laver, yes, back in the day. I'm trying to make out I'm up with it. Yeah. Then he mentioned something else, and I went, this guy knows more about Australia than I do. He said, what did you do, play football? I went, no, actually, judo. And he goes, love judo. I went, I said, I was a black belt, did it for many, many years, loved it. He goes, do you know Anton Giesing? I went, in my head, I went, who is this man? Because Anton Giesing was a world champion Olympic judo player back in the 80s. That's the guy I followed. That's the guy I trained with. I go, how does this guy know all this? And then a person I know. And I thought, you don't read enough, you don't watch enough. That's what I got out of this. Like, these people are just people who know general knowledge about the world. They're not showing off, they just create wonderful conversations.
Yes.
And it was just wonderful to meet these people. And you said about changing. I was in the gym one day on set, in the hotel we're at, and there's this woman came, beautiful woman, and, you know, as a guy, some guys like, oh, she's pretty. The first thing I wonder if she's going, oh, she's pretty. I wouldn't mind talking to her. I didn't do any of that. Thank God it was Robert Duvall's partner.
Oh, my God.
So see, lessons learnt. Be careful what you say to people.
Yes.
Be careful you talk about what comes out of your mouth. I could have ruined everything by being some jerk.
Yeah.
Now, I have been a jerk, by the way, but,
You and me both.
So, just the travel of the world and all these experiences we've had with Vigo, what a beautiful man that guy is. Oh, my gosh, I can't share what he did for us, and did it like it was just, hey, how you doing?
Yeah.
He's just beautiful man.
Yeah.
So, it's been a wonderful experience to meet people behind the scenes and just see how beautiful they are. Benedict Cumberbatch, again, not talking about, hey, I know Benedict, I don't know him that well, but just saying what a wonderful human being he is. At the big after party at the Oscars, I came into this massive room looking for Cody. I'm like, oh, great, how am I going to find him? Next thing, hands on my shoulders, grabbed me around, said, hey, Dad, you looking for your boy? I went, oh, yeah. And he goes, I'm Benedict Cumberbatch. I go, I know who you are. I did. I turned and said, I know who you are. And he laughed. He said, come with me. Grabbed me and grabbed my hand, pulled me through and took me off to find Cody. And I thought, oh, man, you're a good guy. You could have just walked past me and not done anything. So
Andy McPhee is my guest. Maybe we'll have you come back. I'd love to talk more about the industry and a lot of I get this all the time, and I'll table it if we do this again, but I hear all the time, you can't be a Christian and act in Hollywood. It's just such a dark industry, and I'm thinking, yeah, okay. First of all, a lot of people in Hollywood that may not know the Lord trying to find themselves, maybe your witness will help them in that walk. And number two, this is a heck of a way to leave the podcast, but I know a lot of non-believing people. They're actually more Christ-like than a lot of the Christians I know. So maybe we'll delve down that again. But in closing, I want to give you an opportunity to say any final thoughts because I know you've got some commitments. And also, as we begin, you talked about your love for coaching and what you do. How can we find you? Maybe there's somebody watching right now that would like to find out more information. I know you're on social media too a little bit.
Yeah, my social media really doesn't talk a lot of. I do little posts about that, but I'm more about. I used to be an engineer on the railways, so my posts are a lot about trains.
Yeah.
And my Cody's younger brother's into trains, and so I just post general things about life, a little bit about acting. But probably the easiest way to get hold of me if anyone wants to is
Your website.
No, the website actually we're doing on the web. We've got it, but we're just going to reformat it a little bit. It needs to be upgraded. But just my email, the actingcoach558@gmail.com.
Okay.
Actingcoach558@gmail.com.
We'll make sure and put
this
that
is a paid announcement.
Yes and no. Not really.
I'm not getting paid.
Well,
Oh, did you?
it comes in all sorts of ways. I'm going to say this in closing, and thank you for agreeing to do this. This has been a real treat. Years ago, when I was in a season of my walk as a Christian, I was kind of confused and going through some things, and I had heard about the buzz around Sons of Anarchy. And from outside looking in, I'm like, I can't watch that. I'm Christian. All these things went through my mind. And I was telling Dave before we started this, one night somehow I started watching. And I got instantly drawn in, not just because of the storyline and the acting, but there was a humanness in a lot of the characters, even though they lived lives that were,
horrendous.
Yeah, horrendous. Thank you. And then after I watched it for a while, and this is the truth, I would draw to certain characters. And I didn't know you at the time. And then there you are. And there was something about not just your character that you were playing, but maybe you that was coming through the character. I said, I really like this guy. And then fast forward a bit of time later, maybe Brian brought you to a KMG event, and I'm like, I was doing the double take. And then I think we talked a little bit. So,
Well, what you said is, and I get it, I'm not contradicting what anyone wants to. There's obviously things you're not going to watch, of course. But it's that bike world that got me back into my faith. I hate that word back into. It's always been there, but I just was ignoring, right? It was through all the outlaw the clubs that I used to hang. I never rode with them, but I hung around with them for a long time, 35, 40 years. And that path led me to a beautiful Christian mate of mine who was at the clubhouses every Friday night, and he used to wear a jumper, and it had God botherer on it, right? Bothers people with God. The club made that up for him because he wasn't afraid of his faith. He'd go there, he would have a beer. Right, he didn't
Shocking.
And he would talk about his faith. They knew, but they accepted him because he came in as who he is, and he was a tough guy. He wasn't a pusher. He was a very tough guy, but he didn't come in that way. And so they bought him this pullover jumper that had a pullover. We say jumper in Australia, God bother on it. So it was through those people, and then through my friend Terry, who I knew at the time. He was in the club, and now we're the best of friends. And then I connected him up with another guy who's pretty much out there, Mel Chancey. He's on Instagram.
Love him. You
Right?
showed me him. I love that.
Yeah,
Dude.
Mel was in the HAs, man. And I'm not talking out of school. You can go watch his YouTube. He tells you exactly what that was like and how he was. But I've connected him to my mate Terry, and they're the best friends now. Because they're both in the same club, they both had the same stories. They're not against the club. They're just going, this is not my journey anymore. And they connect all the time. And Mel says, I can't tell you, Andy, thank you for hooking me up with Terry. And Terry works in a safe house for kids who are troubled, homeless or on drugs. And Terry was doing that in the club when he was looking after the kid. He was a Christian in the club, but then it just pulled him away. I think Terry's story was, he said one night, I was flying down this street like flat out, and I hit what we call a roundabout. I think you call them circles or something. Yeah. Weird you are, you people.
Here we go.
Oh, sorry. No, I'm joking. And actually, I say sidewalk now instead of footpath because you don't know what a footpath is. And I say trunk instead of boot and bonnet instead of hood. So he flew over this roundabout / circle. And he said, I took off. He thought, that's it, I'm done. Because this is happening in milliseconds. He said, I'm done. And he said, I felt a pressure on my back pushing me down like a hand. He said, I hit the ground, 2 wheels, pulled up and went, okay. He said, I know someone bigger than me just saved me. And then that was Terry's journey into devotionals. And he left the club, and he left the club with respect. Not what people think sometimes, like they fully respect him and still respect him because he wasn't hiding who he was. This is who I am, and I'm wearing this patch and I'm doing this, and, and same with Mel. That's why I think these guys are great. They're brave. They're brave at what they're doing now than when they were.
Amen.
And I've heard a lot of gang members say that, and I know for a fact that years ago when you move out of those circles, you go, no, it's harder to be a citizen. It's harder to get up and go to work and do the right thing by your family, which a lot of us haven't done. And it's harder when you're with a group and a gang, hey, you've got your protection. And these guys, I admire Mel and Terry for what they're doing, especially Mel, because he got done on the RICO and he was in jail for a long time. And a lot of his friends said, you ratted on us. And he clearly, I'm talking out of tune here, out of school, he said, no, I didn't. He said, I did not. He said, I went and did my time with my other buddy, and I would never do that to anyone. But, that's why I like Mel, because he's blunt and honest. And if you want to look at him, it's Mel Chancey on Instagram, and he's got a very great interview on YouTube about his journey into faith. And he tells you a pretty blunt story, what he did to a guy who beat up one of his friend's daughters, or not, but, give her a bit of a whack. And he said, bring him over the house. I won't go into it. You can watch YouTube. He doesn't leave anything out. They don't saying they killed him, but he didn't do that again.
He didn't give him a bunch of hugs either.
No, he didn't. Because I think the last thing this guy said, and again, Mel says it on YouTube, he goes, one day this guy said to me, he said, you need to stop treating her like that's my mate's daughter. You need to stop that. And he goes, what, are you and your big Hell's Angels going to get me? Shouldn't have said that.
Oh, boy. No.
And I'm not talking about the club, the Hells Angels. I'm just saying that this was his story at the time, that when he opened the door and walked in, he went, "You're right." He said, "You don't do that." Because she came home with black eyes and cuts and things, so they just shook his hand and gave him a hug and said, "Don't do that ever again."
That's right. Boy, this is... I'm going to temper every fiber in my being because I have a men's ministry and masculinity and manhood and men being men. This is, we have a crisis here. But maybe we'll have you come back. Would you come back?
Yeah, no, I'd love to come back. It'd be great, mate, And I was a pro wrestler, right?
Yeah.
That's how I got into acting. Mel's best friend is the Hulk, who's a Christian.
He sure is.
I never knew. Never had any clue. And I see them together all the time. I went, I really got to go see Mel. Hey, Mel, how you going? Where's the Hulk? I don't want to talk to you.
And I've just recently seen him speaking about his faith. I don't know if it's recent or what, but I have not seen that much before.
Yeah, no, he's doing a lot now. He's always with Mel because Mel runs a big bodybuilding empire with all based around John 3:16. And I'm going to be honest. You said, am I vocal about my faith? Yeah, but I'm not that vocal.
Yeah.
I admire people like that because there's a little bit of, that's scary.
Sure.
How do you do that, man?
Sure.
Well, thanks, Frank.
Thank you.
Mr. Sontag.
Yeah, I was wondering if you're going to go there as we wind down. Oh, my gosh. Andy McPhee has been my guest, and the most recent Planet of the Apes is out.
Yeah, it is now. I'm going to be honest here. People go, well, I watched it and really didn't see you. You're lying. No, I am there.
Yeah.
Right? And I am there and I'm in there. Yeah. But the sad part is that a couple of my friends from Australia came here. They played the Big Bad Apes. They came for the screening. But they did cut a lot out. And that's respectfully cut out because it's a long movie. So they had to chop bits and pieces out. So because we're in there as supporting roles, it was my Eagle clan, the Honoured Elder. So there's one scene they did take out, which would have been the best scene to leave in because there was more of us in there, but that's okay. It's cool. That's what happens in the industry. I'm there on the ground getting beat up by my friend, who I've forgiven now. We went for coffee and a few other spots, but I don't care. It's great to be involved in something like that.
Yeah.
It's just so good.
Yeah.
The best. And I do give a great ape impression.
I bet you do. I don't have any doubt about it.
Yeah, well, thanks, mate. I appreciate it,
Appreciate you coming in. Look forward to the next time. Thank you for all you do. Let's keep in touch.
And to your...
Dave.
Dave?
Yeah.
Did you say ape?
No.
Oh, Dave. Oh, Dave.
I didn't say ape.
Hey, Dave, thanks. The tech man behind the scenes.
Yeah, he does it all. Grateful for you, brother.
Same.
Love you.
Both of you. Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah. This has been our podcast. We are here every Friday afternoon. Let us know what you like, what you don't like, how we can help you, serve you. KMG Ministries, we are still in existence. We are a men's ministry that calls all men, both those that know who they are in Christ and those that may be searching. We call all men to find their plan and purpose that God has made them for. KMGministries.com. And Andy McPhee 550. I now forgot my email. I wrote it in an email, sent it to my actors the other day to send me something, and I put 2 eyes in it. They said it's bouncing. I go, oh, sorry, I'm getting old. It's actingcoach558@gmail.com. That's right. We'll make sure and put it in the podcast.
All right, mate. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for watching. Until next time, God bless you. Thank you for watching this. This is the Frank Sontag Podcast.